oxidative stress. It's sort of like the process of how we age, more specifically, the root causes of disease. Oxidative stress. Well, we now know what causes all disease, right? So once we've isolated that, what's the first step or first two steps we can do to either stop or reverse that process? So if there's anybody that doesn't need an introduction to our group, because everybody keeps requesting that he comes back, it's Dr. David Wright. And I see people shaking their head because they already know him, right? So I'm going to pull him back in, and he's going to talk about two really easy things that we can do to stop this horrible oxidative stress. Doc?
It's good to see familiar faces. That's awesome. Welcome to today's presentation. It means even more that you've made the effort to get here, right? So that's a step in the right direction. And today what I plan to do is give you some practical things that you can start today, if you so choose, that will help do what Larry just talked about. So let me describe oxidative stress in an easier way to grasp it, because it's an odd concept. But think of this: oxidative stress is an actual poison that your body can make based upon lots of different things, but it can make this poison that damages cells and arteries. Well, guess what? We have cells everywhere. This damages every single cell in the human body. It is responsible for how fast you age. It's responsible for heart attacks and strokes, most dementia, half of all cancers, diabetes, are all related to this poison. Who here knows what carbon monoxide is? Who knows what it smells like? Who knows what it tastes like? Who knows that it can kill you? Okay, so there's an example of a poison that you don't know is killing you until you wake up dead. Well, our body produces this thing called oxidative stress that is a poison that's just like that. And slowly, over 30 to 40 years, this damage accumulates. And the first talk that I did, I guess about a year ago now, that was entitled Heart Attacks Are Optional. And if you didn't see that one, if you didn't attend that one, please go on the Radiant Partners site and you'll get more details on that. But that's what we're talking about tonight. What do I do about this poison? How do I get rid of this poison? How do I stop making this poison? Now, that's a very long topic. We're going to pick the two most important things tonight. And that's why the name of my talk is Your Forks and Your Furniture Are Killing You. And that's not an exaggeration. In fact, right this minute, so I had to look around the room to be sure, I'm the only one not getting sicker by the minute. Yeah. Yep. So we're going to talk about that. Let me set the stage also a little bit, that we call the current healthcare system, well, that's what we call it, right? You go see your doctor, he's part of the healthcare system. You go to the hospital, that's part of the healthcare system. What I'm talking about is health creation. Very, very different. In fact, physicians are still not trained in what we're going to talk about tonight. That's not a criticism. Let me explain why that is. The healthcare system is really a disease care system. Detect a disease, treat the disease. We have some amazing treatments, for heaven's sake. I have a granddaughter that is a beneficiary of St. Jude. At age 3 on Thanksgiving Day one year, she was diagnosed with leukemia. She is now just finished first grade and doing wonderful. We need cures for diseases. But that means you got to wait for you to be sick before we can treat you. Heaven forbid you have a heart attack. If you get to the hospital soon enough, they have some amazing things they can do to save that heart muscle. Thankfully, we have that. But who in here would rather not even have the heart attack, right? Thank you. Yeah. So optimal health is this idea of what can I do to prevent what is preventable? Well, what I'm here to tell you is this poison that you can't feel, you can't taste, you can't sense is slowly acting on all of the cells in your body and the arteries to lead you towards disease. So let's prevent that from ever arriving. So this audience participation, this demands an answer, okay? What causes most heart attacks and strokes? Larry can't answer. Obesity, high cholesterol, clogged arteries, blood clots, plaque, stress. Anybody else?
Oxidative stress.
Diet, oxidative stress.
No exercise.
Wink, wink.
That's a brownie pointer.
That's brown. So the answer that really I'm looking for, everything everybody said is a part of that answer. Yes, this is the key. And I'm sure you've heard about inflammation and chronic inflammation, but what is that really? You know, so chronic inflammation doesn't make you feel bad. So the poison doesn't make you feel bad, and the chronic inflammation doesn't make you feel bad. So it's no wonder that these diseases happen. You don't go to your doctor because it makes you feel bad. You go to him once you have a problem like a heart attack or a stroke. And inflammation, so a fever is a part of inflammation, but that's what we call acute inflammation. It's a sudden, temporary type of inflammation that's designed to heal you. Chronic inflammation doesn't heal. It actually adds to the damage. So now we have the poison that's causing inflammation. Now the inflammation's causing more damage, and you can see where we're headed. So let's stop this. When we think about the impact of these chronic diseases, I like to use the picture of a candle because that is inflammation, right? It's a flame. It's that fire that's consuming the candle. And that candle is slowly fading away. Well, the average American spends the last 13 years of their life in declining health. Think about that. The average person lives to be 78 years old. Well, subtract 13 years from that, that's age 65. Ooh, that's retirement age. Oh my gosh. Now, I think this audience is different than the average audience, thankfully, but let's keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. And the reason for that is oxidative stress. That is the unifying theme. Larry said we have the answer for what causes most diseases, most chronic diseases. So we're not talking about infections and, lots of other things, but most chronic, quote, diseases of aging. Well, they did a study, 15 years ago, and they actually said, let's survey and figure out what is the leading cause of death in our country. And nutrition, what we put on our forks, is at the top of the list. That's why we're going to talk about that tonight. And furniture or sedentary lifestyle is number 5 on the list. And so we could talk about all 10. We're only going to talk about those 2. But I put our weight in the middle of that because clearly that's tied into both of those. So these are preventable. You have within your power the ability to make different decisions. The problem is there's so much information out there. What do I listen to? And with social media and all the other things, information There's plenty of information out there, but does it apply to me? I can't tell you exactly what you need to do tonight, but I'm going to give you some important principles that you can apply. Hippocrates knew this a long time ago, that our food really is our medicine. If you eat the right things, it's going to keep you healthy. If you don't eat the right things, it's going to lead to problems. I mean, that was over 2,000 years ago. We're just now figuring it back out. So think about your own house. Which door would you rather open? The one to your medicine cabinet? And I'm going to put supplements in there too, okay? Things that you're taking to try to stay healthy and stave off things. Or this door, the medicine that's in your pantry and your refrigerator. So I need to know what do I stock that medicine cabinet with? So Mediterranean diet, you hear a lot about that. That's an important principle. That's a lot of plants and a lot of healthy fats and seeds and nuts and fish and not much processed food. All those things are a part of the Mediterranean diet. As good as that is, there's not one nutrition plan that's right for everybody in this room. I'll say that again. There's not one nutrition plan that's right for everybody in this room, but we're going to talk about, again, some principles that everybody can apply. So as you're designing your nutrition plan, think of it that way. I hate the word diet for lots of reasons. The big one is because what are the first three letters of diet? What does that spell? Die. Yeah, exactly. I don't want you to die or feel like you're dying because of the food choices that you're making. So nutrition is it. We're feeding our bodies with healthy things. So we have to talk about when are you eating? And what are you eating? And how much are we eating? Those are components of your own nutrition plan. So we're going to start with some basics. First of all, we want to eat food the way it was originally came out of the ground or, from the animals that we're eating. We don't want it to go through a second step before it gets in our mouth. So that's a principle. We don't want to add salt to our foods. And a lot of us grew up, that's what you did to your food, right? I mean, you put the salt on there. But guess what? Taste is an acquired thing. We train ourselves. So if salt's a challenge for you, you can move to some non-sodium substitutes that are going to give you the flavor that you're hoping for without the sodium, without that salt. Tonight I don't have time to explain why I'm making all of these recommendations, and we'll have time for Q&A. But again, I'm trying to equip you with what can I do? Again, starting today. Here's what the average plate ought to look like in terms of the proportions of the different food types. We need some of everything. There are all sorts of nutrients that are specific to vegetables versus fruits versus protein sources and so on. So we don't want to just have one thing on our plate. Any diet that is only this can't possibly be a sustainable, healthy diet. And then, so let's say, okay, Dr. Wright, I'm going to have my plate look like that, but what do I put on my plate? Well, if inflammation is the enemy, let's talk about the most inflammatory foods so that you know what to avoid. No surprise. We've all heard this, right? Sugar's inflammatory. Sugar's bad for you. It is bad for you. And then the high fructose corn syrup, and that's the sweetener in so many processed foods. Starch. So once you turn wheat into flour, that's a problem. The wheat isn't the problem. We take all the good stuff out and leave the starch, and starch turns into sugar. In your mouth, it turns to sugar. We have a chemical in our mouth that actually turns it into sugar. And then all sorts of oils are not good for you. And then a lot of baked goods and fast foods have this thing called trans fats. It's a type of fat that is highly inflammatory, highly toxic to your arteries. Guess what? Food that you eat that comes out of the ground the way it was grown has 0 trans fat in it. We make trans fat to prepare processed foods. So let's avoid those. And here's a whole slew of things that reduce inflammation. Berries and nuts and fatty fish like salmon, and we're going to talk about this smash group of fish. I've got another slide. So there are 5 types of fish that are the best of the best that you want to eat. A lot of people love that I recommend dark chocolate. It's a very good thing. It's got to be at least 70% dark to get the benefit, because milk chocolate is mostly sugar. Let's remember that. So let me ask this question. Who thinks, and answer honestly, who thinks that healthy eating is boring? Okay. I mean, I used to think that. I mean, honestly, I grew up meat and potatoes, and, I didn't always eat this way. In fact, let me tell you a quick story. You may not believe this, but it's true. 33 years ago, I was 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. True story. I was driving our family vacation back from Florida. I'm sitting with the seat belt in the front seat, and I'm just uncomfortable, and I'm thinking all the way home, you tell your patients what to do, you're not even listening to that advice. And I was getting sugared sodas and donuts. I mean, I was doing all the stuff 30 years ago. And in part because healthy food, I don't need that. Well, this is healthy food. How can that possibly be boring? It's yummy, yummy, yummy. But if you didn't grow up with it, if you didn't, for whatever reason, if you weren't exposed to it, you couldn't have possibly developed a flavor palette that's going to enjoy those. So we talked about the smash fish. So these are an easy way to remember those fish. So salmon's what a lot of people automatically think of, but sardines and herring and others. And these are good because they have the healthy fats and they're low in mercury. So let me just tell you, tuna has lots of mercury in it. I don't care what kind you get, it's got lots of mercury in it. So again, here's a healthy example of all sorts of yummy, yummy stuff. If you enjoy animal meats, so I meant to say this before I got to this slide, but we do prefer, and on that plate you might remember that there was a lot of room for fruits and veggies, so not animal based protein. But I'm not against animals, but we would like most of your food intake to be plant forward. You're welcome to be vegetarian if you'd like to, but you need somebody to help you make sure you get the right nutrition that way. But if you're going to choose animal meat, let's choose the white meats over the red meats. Again, there's lots of reasons for that, but that's a simple choice to make. Let's choose the whole grains rather than the flour. Lots of different grains, barley and jasmine rice and sushi rice and yada yada. And if you need to be gluten-free, the good news is there are lots of gluten-free grains that are available. But grains are an important part of a healthy diet. And then some dairy options would be a low-fat yogurt that doesn't have added sugar to it, but you can add fresh fruit to it. Would be awesome. I didn't know this trick about plain yogurt taking the place of sour cream. Did anybody know about that?
Oh, yeah.
I never knew about that. And then we went overseas one time and they used sour cream instead of yogurt. And it's like, this is awesome. Starches, I've already said this, they turn into sugar right away, so let's avoid these foods as much as possible. Use the healthy fats. The avocados and the nuts are awesome. Extra virgin olive oil is a great addition every single day. Lots of my patients just drink it. I mean, you can put it on your food, but it doesn't have that much flavor, right? I mean, it has some flavor. You need a couple of tablespoons a day to get all the benefits. Watch your salad dressings. They have lots of bad things in them. Most salad dressings you really want to stay away from. Make your own if you want a salad dressing. And sugar is hidden in so many things, for heaven's sake. And they taste wonderful. I mean, they really do. I tell you what, more of my patients, this is their problem. The Starbucks flavored drinks, you know. Yeah, I mean, they're delicious. I love their caramel macchiato, but I don't do it very often. And remember, we're skipping the sugar because it's triggering inflammation. We want foods that reduce inflammation and take away the ones that do. If snacking can be a challenge for folks, and snacking's not necessarily a bad thing, it's what you're choosing to snack with. So let's use the tree nuts. Peanuts are not tree nuts. And don't forget about edamame is a great snack. Alcohol, this is the maximum safe dose for men and women. And if you're going to drink a wine, red wine's better than white. But I want you to know this. We now clearly know for a brain health standpoint, there's no safe dose of alcohol for the brain. It is a toxin to the brain. And it's a toxin that tastes good. It's a toxin that makes me feel good. But it's a toxin that's silently contributing to brain damage. Scary. Now, did I say on here that you can't drink alcohol? I didn't say that. I'm giving you information to make better choices. A lot of people worry about the cholesterol in egg yolks. I promise you that's not the problem. Eggs are fine. If you're going to use an artificial sweetener, the stevia is the best one. It's a natural product, so it's a plant product and it's safe. It's not inflammatory. So we've talked about what you're eating. How about this, when do you eat? Well, Taco Bell, I think this is Taco Bell, yeah. I mean, they actually advertise the fourth meal. Oh my gosh. And so it's a marketing thing, right? Well, what you're about to learn is that eating anything, the act of eating food, creates oxidative stress. Now, wait a minute, Dr. Wright. You just told me to eat these healthy foods because they were going to help me. They will. Eating anything generates oxidative stress because you're burning it as fuel. Just like burning anything. So that's the bad news. The good news is that when we aren't eating, the hours that you are not eating calories, the body is designed to heal the damage that was happening as a result of eating. But, there's a big but. It takes 8 hours from your last calorie intake for the repair process to even start. So if I'm doing the fourth meal thing at 10:30 or 11 at night, and I'm having breakfast at 6 or 7, I mean, I'm barely 8 hours, right? But this is America. I mean, this is reality. Something called intermittent fasting. You may have heard that term. I'm going to tell you how I recommend it. But during the fast, you repair the damage to cells. You reduce inflammation. It improves something called your insulin system, and insulin resistance is what causes diabetes. The fasting is when repair happens. Think of a factory that shuts down periodically to do the maintenance on the machines. That's what your body's doing. But it doesn't start until 8 hours after your last meal. Doesn't even start till then. So optimally, we want to get all of our calories in an 8-hour window. Doesn't matter which 8 hours. So think about that. If I'm going to have breakfast at 8 a.m., 8 hours later is 4 p.m. So you want to eat everything that you're going to eat for the 24 hours in an 8-hour time frame. So it could be 2 meals with snacks in between, but the start and finish time are 8 hours apart. That means no calories is what it means. If you have black coffee, that's fine. During the fast, the fluid intake, in fact, is necessary. You need fluids, so you need the water, you need the no-calorie drinks during that time. So an awful lot of my patients, what they like to do is they'll decide, well, when is dinner going to be tonight? Okay, let me back it up 8 hours from there. That's when I'm going to break my fast. That's where the word breakfast came from anyway, right? It's breaking your fast. So if I'm going to, let's say I'm going to have dinner, like tonight, I'm not going to have dinner probably till 8. Well, I knew that, so I had lunch today at a little bit after noon. So work towards this 8-hour feeding window. So let's say you go home tonight and say, well, you know, Dr. Wright, I did the math and I'm really only getting 12 hours between the two. So you're getting some benefit, but let's work towards 16 hours between your last calories and your first calories. Make sense? Don't do more than 16 hours. There are a lot of negative things to doing too much. Saw a patient today, in fact, who's been doing 19 hours. I said, I didn't tell you to do 19 hours. That's too much. No, you need to eat sooner than that. Okay, Dr. Wright, okay. Yeah, it's like everything, you know, there can be too much or too little of something. The beauty of intermittent fasting is you get to decide the dose. So there may be days where it's like, you know, I'm not going to get that dose of intermittent fasting health. Think of the fasting time as health creating time. So how big of a dose do I want to get? Maybe today's only a 12-hour dose, tomorrow's a 14-hour dose, but most of my days are going to be 16 hours. Oh, Saturday breakfast, family's coming over, I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to have to eat breakfast early and we're going out late. Don't worry about that. But do that dose as often as you can. So take home points on eating. Colorful foods, eat the rainbow. If your plate of food doesn't have lots of colors on it, different colors, you're not getting the right foods. Choose that feeding window. What are my 8 hours that I'm going to eat? And then think about that plate and portion size. You know, how much is that portion of each thing? What about supplements? Well, they are supplements. They don't replace anything. They're ways to augment and supplement deficits that you're not getting in your diet. So fiber can be supplemented. Dark chocolate we already talked about. That can be every day. Vitamin D supplements are often needed. And if you're not a fish eater, then omega-3 fish oils. And they do have vegetarian omega-3s that you can get. But other than these, you really need to, if you're taking supplements for other reasons, please let your medical team know what you're taking. Everything we put into our body is a potential poison. So just remember that as you're deciding what to do. So in the time that we have left, let's talk about this. Where do you spend most of your time? I mean, our society is designed to do lots of things in a seated position. Whereas our ancestors, I mean, they didn't have time to sit, right? They're finding food, they're preparing food, they're getting water, they're getting, you know, watch some of these reality shows, Survivor and so forth. I mean, those people aren't sitting down. They are doing something all day long. But sitting is the problem. So a lot of people, you say the word exercise, and this is what they think of, right? It's like, no, Dr. Wright, that ain't happening. But you need to know all movement is promoting health. It's all medicine. And you get to decide the dose of this medicine. So some goals are to be moving 20 to 30 minutes minimum throughout the day. And it doesn't have to be all at once. I can do a 10-minute walk in the morning and a 10-minute walk in the evening, and that's my 20 minutes. Look for ways to get more movement. Park farther away from the store or the church. Take the stairs when you're able to do that. There are so many ways to think about how can I get more movement. Because exercise, which is planned movement, is one thing, but movement throughout the day is critical. There's lots of alternatives. If you've got hip issues or knee issues, there's chair classes that you can do. And if you love the water and you don't like to swim, well, there's lots of exercises you can do there. I forgot to put the dancing one up, but dance lessons. Line dancing. There you go. All of that stuff. And then this one is the most important one for most people, and that's this idea that our chairs are killing us. And it turns out that if you simply stand up, you don't have to even move other than to get up to get out of your chair. If you do that for 3 minutes every hour that you've been sitting, you have negated the effect of that chair. Oh my goodness. Now you haven't built fitness. You've negated the oxidative stress that chair was creating in your body. And that's why standing desks are all the rage in many companies. They have a standing desk. But again, just stand up. Just stand up. And that means if you have a sedentary job at work, let's stand up there. If you're working all day and you're up and moving, but you come home at night and you're sitting on the couch, well, let's get up every hour at every commercial. Just stand up. So we call that the 3 in 60 program. You got to do some sort of strength training. Our muscles, so everybody after age 40 loses about 1% of your muscle mass per year. If you don't exercise, it's 2 or 3%. And falling is one of the main reasons people start dying as we age. They break a hip or hit their head, and not good. So, and strength training is 2 to 3 times a week. You want to get arms and legs, and you need to look for easy ways to do that. That's not the point of tonight's talk, but there are lots of trainers out there that are happy to design a program for you. If you have a good level of fitness already, then there's something called high intensity interval training, where you do a burst of really high level activity like running in place or jumping rope or all sorts of things. And you do these short bursts several times a week. But you have to have a foundation of fitness before you add that. So let's summarize. Get a feeding window, let's have colorful foods, and let's use a lot of different movements as often as possible throughout the day. Because Abe Lincoln was right about a lot of things. It's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. And I know that's why Larry asked me to speak to you all. Because you all have worked with him for however long it is, so that you can enjoy life. But in the hospital bed, that's not enjoyment. So thank you, Larry, for letting me speak. Sure. Let me ask this. Thank you. So what I would like you to think about, and you don't have to answer, so if the mic gets past you and you don't want to answer, don't worry, you won't hurt my feelings. But if something that I said tonight is like, I can do that, I'm going to do that. I will start doing that tonight. If any of those things make sense, I'd love to hear it. I think the group would love to hear it.
I'd like to kind of speak about food quality that's been happening. So in terms of GMO foods and how things are grown, I have noticed that there's a difference in terms of, I feel the nutrition that I'm getting in the United States versus when I was in Mexico. I felt way fuller, way more satisfied. Is there something to that? Is that all in my head? Should we be purchasing GMO? Is that safe or?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're asking a great question that we don't have great answers for yet, unfortunately. What I can say is GMO foods have been really well studied, and the dangers of those foods have been overblown in social media. I mean, there really is not a credible study that says that certain diseases and those risks are related to that. Now, there may be other things that are different between them, but just overall from a health nutritional standpoint, there's not a risk to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have one more question actually regarding agave and honey and like high glycemic things in terms of switching out like sugar, right? Are they safe replaceable things for sugar, or should I just totally avoid anything that turns and processes into sugar?
Yeah, so great question. So some of the foods that you just mentioned, the type of sugar that's in there is harder to break down.
Okay.
So there is a benefit to that.
Okay.
But more importantly, have it as part of the meal.
Okay.
So let's take honey, for example. It's much better to have honey on food as a part of a meal than I'm going to sweeten my coffee with honey and just have that.
Okay.
I saw in the picture you put for the starch a bowl of rice. Is all the rice bad? Because the Ayurvedic the Ayurvedic diet says that the basmati rice is low glycemic, so we should be eating that one.
So, the only problem with that rice is they've taken all the fiber and nutrients off of it, and so they've left the starch. So that's the issue. So is milled the right word for rice? That they milled it? They milled it. Yeah. So non-milled rice is your better option. But even within that, the basmati and the brown rice, there are other rices that have what's called a low glycemic index. That's a fancy name for how high does it make your blood sugar go. So you want to, and to eat the rice as part of the meal.
So I'm an outdoorsman, and I substitute a lot of my red meat with, I'm a deer hunter, so I substitute deer each year, elk, buffalo. I do quail hunting, pheasant hunting. So I substitute those because those are more natural, non-fatty meats than the processed.
Right. Yeah, and those are great substitutes for what we can get in the grocery store. The recommendation that I would give to outdoorsmen like that is let's have those, but not necessarily every day of the week. Yeah, but if you're going to have a, quote, red meat, okay, let's sub it out. I think that's a great idea. If you ever have too much, let us know. Okay.
He's been promising me some for a long time, so don't hold your breath. Dr. Wright, I've learned more from you about oral health than I ever have from every dentist I've ever seen, except for Elizabeth Mitchell, right? So in addition to the quick and easy ideas, the takeaways tonight, is there something sort of similar that we can do to focus on what's going on in the mouth? Because it's massively important.
Okay, yeah. So Larry's asking a really good question. What does the mouth have to do with our health, basically? Has everything to do with it, absolutely. And what I can tell you is that the way medical and dental training was when I got trained and still is, the mouth is their job and everything else is our job. And they're not connected to each other. I didn't know anything about the mouth and oral health. I mean, I knew how to look for cancer in the mouth, but not what dentists do. Well, we now know, this may stun you, but we know that up to half of all heart attacks are directly caused by the bacteria in somebody's mouth. Half. It's incredible. I mean, how many heart attacks do we have a year in this country? Well, it's about 3,000 a day. Half of those are directly related to the bacteria in our mouth. So it's a big deal. The problem is, so I've talked about this thing called oxidative stress that's a poison that you can't taste or feel. Well, these bad bacteria that I'm talking about live in the little crevice around each tooth, and they don't damage your gums for decades. By the time your dentist says you've got gum disease, it's like me telling a person, oh, you just had a heart attack. That heart attack was 30 years in the making. Their gum disease was 30 years in the making. And the same bacteria that caused their gum disease are also causing their artery disease and inflammation. The challenge is dentists haven't been trained in this. It's not their fault, it's the system. It's not any one person's fault, but their training is to restore smiles and save teeth. I've had dentists tell me that. That's not me making that up. How do I restore smiles and save teeth? If your gums look healthy, then you get told you have healthy gums. These bacteria are invisible. And again, by the time they cause disease, they've already had a 30-year head start on causing other problems. Before I tell you the tip, let me share also that how do we get the bad bacteria in our mouth? We get it from the people we live with. It is a contagious disease.
So like
Mom and dad, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, we share saliva in one way or another. So I tell my patients all the time, when I find these bacteria, and I find them in about 80% of the people I test. So not everybody has them, but 80% do. And I tell them, you got this either from your family of origin or the family you married into. So it's a people-to-people thing. Now, food and flossing and other things then promote the growth of them, but the origin is from the other people. So when I find these abnormal bacteria in the wife, for example, even if the husband's not my patient, I say, your husband has to get this bacteria test, and you both have to go to the same dentist so that that dentist who has been trained in eradicating these can get rid of them so that you don't keep passing it back and forth. So to do that, you have to get a saliva test that most dentists don't do, sorry to say, because they're not looking for the bacteria. But I do want to say one thing is, so I'm going to come back to the alcohol. The worst mouthwash you can use is one that has alcohol in it. Well, here's why I'm saying that's the worst one you can use. So the good bacteria that are supposed to be in our mouth live on the surface of everything. The bad bacteria are down in the crevice. So the alcohol mouthwash is actually killing the good bacteria and leaving the bad guys behind.
I heard a dentist on TV the other day say that when you brush your teeth with toothpaste, anti-fluoride, whatever, she said you really shouldn't rinse your mouth out with water after brushing. She said that washes away the benefit of the toothpaste and the stuff in it.
Yeah. So there is truth to that. So if you're using a toothpaste that has fluoride or other substances in it, yeah, you do want it to stay in your mouth for some period of time. Yeah. So flossing's important, brushing is important, but guess what? Neither one of those actually gets down into that crevice. But if you don't get the food out between your teeth and so on, that is food for those bacteria. So we do want to do that. Other questions? Thank you all. I always love this group. Thank you.
Marriott, can you bring up his website for us? Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a heads up. Later this year, we're going to bring Dr. Wright back, right? And we're going to show you my before and after lab results with Dr. Wright. Because he can't break the HIPAA rules and show you any other patients, but I've given him permission to share with you, right? So, you know, I've had some challenges, two heart attacks, quadruple bypass, a stent, right? It's been a challenge. I may not be his most challenging patient, but I might be at the top. But I want to be able to say we proved it, because we're just telling things. But when you see the lab results that I see, the detail, it's amazing. And I want you to be able to see a live case of what I actually had to turn around. It's amazing. And what these physicians that focus on this can really do now with your cooperation. So we're going to put a live set of examples. I want him to bring my sleep study. I want him to bring in my oral health study. I want him to show you all the labs and go through it so that he can explain all the inflammation markers, where they are, what they look like, whether or not I'm on fire or not, what I've had to do to accomplish that. We're going to get Dr. Mitchell in to talk to about some oral health later. While he just finished the editing on our podcast. When will that go out? Next week. He and I spent, I don't know, a good hour or so on a podcast getting into why he's doing what he does, his passion, what drives him, why he partnershiped with Dr. Andrew Lee from Harvard, why he's doing all this stuff, what he sees that is the future of healthcare, how it's going to be different than the healthcare we grew up with, and what some amazing research that's out there. So this is Dr. Wright's website. I was on there the other day. I saw two remarkable things on his website. In our provider's last 20 years of practice, we haven't had a single patient develop a heart attack, ischemic stroke, or dementia. Go to your doctor's website and see if they will post their statistics about how many patients they've lost. Okay? They put it on their website. Boom! Money back guarantee. I'll buy you a gold coin if you show me another doctor that will put a money back guarantee on their practice. It is not out there. There it is in writing. Right? If you're tired of not having your doctor pay attention to you, if you're tired of not having a doctor that doesn't know all about this, that won't respond to your phone calls, much less your text, there it is. Right? You now have the burden of sharing. So, from my friend, Mr. Spock, live long, prosper.